All right. Hi, I'm Kari Anderson. I'm from VPR, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight for our special holiday cooking demo with Chef Hervé Mahé and Bistro de Margot. We've got some really exciting stuff planned for tonight, but while folks join in, just want to take a couple moments and talk with Chef. How you doing tonight?
Doing well, thank you very much.
Good. Why don't you tell us about your path to the kitchen? How did you become a chef in short?
Well, it's a long story, but we're going to make a short version. So it started in 1984, so it's quite long. First time cooking school, kind of vocational school at that time. 3-year program, and had the chance to work in some very good restaurant, one in Paris in particular. La Tour d'Argent, a 3-star Michelin restaurant. And then did another one where I worked as a server this time, still was an internship and at school, and server in a palace in Deauville in Normandy. Afterwards, I went to work for 1 year in 3 different restaurants. I went first in south of France, in Valence, then I went to Corsica and then came back in south of France. And then afterwards went back to school in Paris for 2-year program. And that was finished in 1990. And afterwards went to work. So I worked pretty much everywhere in France, from, like I said, Corsica, and I worked in Paris, I worked in Lyon. I worked in Alsace, I worked in England, in Luxembourg, and south of France and other places. So I did pretty much my tour of France. And then in the last 25 years now, it's been in the US. So we've done 2 years in Texas, 2 years in Vancouver, BC, 6 years in Seattle, and now 15 years in Burlington, Vermont. So,
amazing. What brought you to Vermont specifically?
Followed my wife. So, she's working at UVM. She's a professor at UVM. So that's why we went to Texas, where she did a master's degree, and she did a PhD in Vancouver, BC at UBC. And so, and then we came back to Seattle because I had to get a green card. So I had to cross the border back and get my paperwork.
Tell us a little about your restaurant, Bistro de Margot.
So Bistro de Margot opened now 5 years ago in September 2015. So it's named after my grandmother, maternal grandmother. So Margot was, she was kind of a matriarch of the family. She, 7 daughters, 2 boys, 27 grandkids, 30 grandkids. And then 30 great-grandkids, 35 great-grandkids by the time she passed away. So, I wanted to name the restaurant after her. It was kind of my way to kind of, honor her in some ways. She created a big family, and they also helped us out when we opened the restaurant. So it was, it's still, the story keeps on going, and we're celebrating her every day.
And there's a bee on your logo. There's a special story about the bee. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, it is. So when Margot passed away, it was in April 2015, and we were already looking in purchasing this business. And then when she passed away, she was surrounded by 4 other daughters, I believe. And then it was a beautiful day of April in the spring, and they opened the window, and a bee flew in and out. And Margot always loved honey and always loved bees. And so, that's why the bee went on the logo. It's an important part, right? It took Margot's spirit, and she lives on now. So
it's lovely. Well, all right. We know people are here for the food. So just want to let folks know that, we'll pretty much be watching Chef for most of the time. Feel free to put your questions in the chat function, and we'll ask them throughout as we're able. And then we'll have plenty of time at the end for a nice Q&A, and, for you to really ask all your questions at the end as well. So tell us about what we got going. Let's get started.
So here we are. Tonight we're going to do a lobster. So I introduce you to Matt. Matt is our lobster of the night. So Matt's going to be jumping in the hot bath pretty soon for 6.5 minutes, not more. And then afterwards, I'm going to show you how to do a whole dish. So we're going to have a risotto cake that I prepped some this morning. And then you'll see we're also going to do a lobster risotto, if you will. So we'll prep that with some of the lobster. I cooked some this morning to be making sure that everything flows. But we're going to start to cook this lobster. And then in the meantime, we're going to get the vegetable ready, risotto ready. And at the end, we'll plate up. And that could be a good dish for you guys to to do these coming holidays. So we're gonna start. For the do, we're gonna take Matt, and Matt goes in his water. So here we go, still alive. Make sure your lobster is always alive when you cook the lobster. And here he is. Now it's gonna go there for 6.5 minutes, not more. The reason being is that if you cook it longer, the meat's gonna become chewy. Like whenever you do sometimes scallop and the scallop are overcooked, it's very chewy and bouncy, and you don't want that. You want them to be still nice and soft. In the meantime, while the lobster is cooking, we're gonna start to cut some onions for a risotto. So risotto, the ingredients are arborio rice or round rice, a little bit of white wine, some lobster stock that I'm going to show you to do afterwards. But you can, if for tonight, you can use water. You're still going to get the same result. The flavor may not be as strong, but you're still going to get some good result. And if you want to eat your risotto tonight, you can always do that. Otherwise, you can cook everything tonight, and tomorrow, with the help of the video, you can finish it and redo the dish. And then I use also some Alpha Tolman. It's going to be a little bit the cheese Alpha Tolman from Jasper Hill. To replace the Parmesan, I think it's a good cheese. It's got a good edge to it. And so it's going to be bringing and tying up the risotto. So for risotto, what do we need? We need also onions. So I have one peeled, cut in half. So you want some small dice or as small as you can. Don't cut your finger. And that's what we call, it's a classic cut called ciselé. Basically, you take your onions, go first on the vertical, and afterwards you're going to dice it. Again, you want the dice to be small. If you have any trimming, do not worry about it. The trimmings will go in the stock. That's the one thing we do, when we cook a lot, is whatever trimming of vegetable we have, except the peel, of course, the trimmings are going for stock. We do here beer stock, we do chicken stock, we do lobster stock, as you see. And so, it's very important that you do not put those vegetables that are perfectly good in the trash. So now I'm going to turn on the burner. I will start the risotto with a little bit of olive oil. And then I'll take the onions. Onions going to go in. And you can follow the recipes that you have. Usually you'll see that for your risotto, you'll have also, it's usually the ratio is one volume of rice for 2.5 volume of liquid. You can adjust that. It depends depend how fast you go, and if you're boiling it too much, it's going to evaporate, and so you may have to add more liquid. But in the meantime, so you're going to use wooden spatula. Make sure you sweat the onions without coloration, of course. You want something nice and translucent, and I'll show you when it's going to be ready. So we have this one going. So while it's starting to slowly sweat on this guy for the onions, we're going to take our vegetables. So on the recipe, I called for Romanesco cauliflower. I could not find some for today, so I found some purple cauliflower. So I got the purple cauliflower, I got zucchini, carrots, and leeks. So in order to do that, I use a mandolin, but you can also use a peeler. So with the mandolin, with the carrots, I'm going to put it on a pretty thin setup, so it's still kind of going to be able to bend and fold easy. And then this one's going to be enough for one dish for the plate we're going to do. Afterwards, I'm going to cut those guys into strips. So the strip is going to be about, tagliatelle pasta. It's about, 1/2 inch wide. So as long as you get something consistent, and then, so it's going to be looking good on your plates. I will do the same with the skin of the zucchini. And that's going to bring you, of course, some green on your plate. And same stuff, even if it's not super, super consistent in the lengths, you'll be just fine on this one. So this one, I'm going to leave it whole. This one cut in half. And then the leeks. In the meantime, I'm going to check this one here. That's cooking. Cooking is all about multitasking. If you can't multitask, well, you're at home, you have someone to help you out, it's going to make it easier. So, and then for the leek, same stuff. You've seen, I used mostly the white. I'm just going to do this one here. Same stuff, cutting these kind of a little bit wider strips. So I got my 3 ready. In the meantime, on this one, I'm good. So you see now, you have a nice translucent onion in olive oil. So when at this stage, I'm going to lower the burner and take the rice. Pour the rice, and I'm going to coat it and make sure it's nice. I'm trying to absorb some of the olive oil a little bit. So it's going to become slightly translucent too. It doesn't take very long. At this stage, I will add a little bit of wine, the white wine. And I'm going to keep on stirring. So whenever you start a risotto, you want to keep on stirring, not all the time, but every 2 minutes, you want to give a little stir. And whenever the liquid is absorbed, then I will start to add my lobster stock. And same stuff, a little bit at a time. And then you stir a bit and you let it go. I think the lobster should be almost good. Thank you. So here's our lobster. He's matte coming out of the water. He's now all red and cooked. And I put it in an ice bath. So it's going to allow us, one, not to burn our fingers. So one thing you want to avoid doing too. A lot of things in the kitchen, you want to have a sharp knife. Otherwise, this is the best way to cut yourself. And also having some good equipment. You know, but sharp knife being one of the main ingredients that you need to have. So, and for the cauliflower, all I'm going to do, I'm just going to break the main stem here. And I'm going to do some small florets, but, you know, even the small one here, I'm going to go inside, cut that out. I'm going to break them apart. So you're going to have some small pieces of cauliflower. And, you know, for the cauliflower, it brings a little bit of nice flavor, and some for the Romanesco. We're also going to bring a little bit more color to your plate. So on this one, you know, you don't need too much. I mean, for 4, you're going to multiply that, of course. This one here. This one is going. So for the veg, Chris, could you bring me spider? Thank you. So we have this one, keep on cooking. The lobster is cooked. So now we're going to start cleaning the lobster. So we have this lobster here that we just did. You can leave it right here. And I'm just going to, first of all, drain it a bit. Move this cold water away. Then the vegetable, I give them a little bit of a boil very fast. I got some boiling water ready. And we can do that right off the bat. So I do have this one here. So you're going to take your vegetable, and it's going to be really a round trip in your water. So boiling water, always a little pinch of salt in your water. You don't want it too salty, but you still want to taste the salt when you do it. And then at this stage, so the risotto still cooks, did not absorb all the stock I put in already. So what I'll do afterwards is I'm going to add also a pinch of saffron. So the saffron, what it's going to do is going to develop and also give some color. And also a little bit of piment d'Espelette. So it's chili from Espelette, from the southwest of France. It doesn't have a lot of heat. It's more flavor than heat. And you see afterwards, I'll show you the color. So I'll put just a little pinch of saffron. If you can't find any saffron, it's hard to find. It's also it's one of the most expensive spice. So you can also use a little bit of turmeric, or you can also use, if you'd like, a pinch of curry powder. That would do also the same work. In the meantime, the vegetables are now softer, and you can see now they're nice and pliable. And I'm going to shock them also in cold water. And then at the end, I'm going to do also the cauliflower that I prepped up. Put them here. You see now the liquid is starting to be absorbed, but the rice is far from being cooked yet. So what you want is a consistent heat, and then go slow. These guys are going to be in good shape. So now we're going to start to clean our lobster. So on this one, I'm going to keep all these trimmings for afterwards. So how to clean a lobster? Very simple. So I do have this one to clean. I'm going to show you 2 lobsters, and if you need any refresher, we have also a link on our Instagram account where you can see how to clean a lobster. So we're going to go from this lobster to that stage here. So how do we do that? Very simple. You're going to take the claws first. You're going to break them out. You're going to take the tail. So this part is a part where it can be a little bit messy. So in order to clean the tail, I just take the tail here, but I'm going to keep the end of it for decor. So I pull it up sideways too, and then I pull it up. Then for the tail itself, you know, you go with one hand, you squeeze it, you break the crust, and then you open it like a book on the other side. And then the coral here, you can keep it. That can be something that you can add also in the stock, you know, and that's going to turn color. Whenever it's going to cook, it's going to turn bright red. Then afterwards, you're going to take the head, and you're going to separate the head. For the same stuff, you're going to use the head with for the decor, for the shell. So you remove whatever is inside, then you take a pair of scissors, and you will cut the head this way. That's going to be reserved aside too. In the meantime, I'm going to double check my risotto. Add a little bit more stock. Oops. Give it a stir. And let it go some more. Now my cauliflower ready. Put them out. They still keep a nice bright purple color. On this one. And we're going to go back to our lobster. So afterwards, you can take, of course, the rubber band off. What is here? So how to clean the claws? Very simple. For me, I use bare hand, but you can use a cloth. It may be easier, especially you got all this little spiky part on the cloth. And so you pull it backwards. You're going to take the claws here, and with this part, you're going to move the part that moves here. And you're going to go slightly sideways, very lightly, until you hear a crack. And normally, everything should come together. Not on this one, of course. We'll do another one, but we'll do the second one too. We save it anyway. So same again, 1, 2. And whenever you close, yeah, here you go. So you got a little cartilage coming out, which is going to allow you to have a better, you know, whenever you eat it, you don't need to lose anything. So same way on this one. I'm going to do this one a little bit faster. So 1, 2, come out. This one, we'll keep them aside. 1, 2, and it's out again. So now that the part that's a little bit messy when you cut lobsters is the claw. You need to break them a bit. So usually, you know, you want to try, this one is actually a semi-soft hard shell. You want to try to have the lobster whenever they hard shell. 2 reasons for that, and I prefer them because they are, one, fuller. It's not a lobster that just shedded, you know. So and then you're gonna have the lobster meat will be a little bit less salty. You can see it sprays everywhere. So we remove that again, and then if you need, you can push it on the other side. Again, a very little tap on it should break it. You can also do that with the back of a chef knife, and you'll be it's going to go just fine on that hand.
Chef, we have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me? From Margaret?
Yeah.
Who wanted to know if the saffron went into the boiling veg or into the risotto?
Into the risotto.
Okay.
Saffron goes into the risotto. Yes. That's a good question. And you can also, if you want, start the saffron at the beginning. Whenever you sweat your onions, it's also going to develop a little bit more flavor. So, you know, but a pinch of saffron is going to take a long way in terms of cooking. So the risotto is still going. Here I don't need the water for the veg. I'm going to clean up the second lobster. And that, again, that's going to be for you decor. So it's important, food should always look good, right? So even if it's a part you don't eat on the plate, it's a shell, but it's just going to remind you what product we started with for once. And then you'll see at the end, the presentation is it's pretty fun. So here we are, another tail. And then now for the claw meat, because the claw meat is going to go into the risotto. So for this one, you can break him in half. And what I do, I use an old paring knife that I have, paring knife, and then I just pull the meat out. You can go and push this one out on the other side. You can also go and cut it a little bit with your knife. But if you have some soft shell lobster, it's going to be easier to take out. All right, so we're almost done on this part. There you go. So your lobster now going to be almost ready. We almost have not everything ready, but we close to be. So the last knuckle meat here. And then afterwards, we're going to change our cutting board. Before we change the cutting board, though, I'll take this lobster knuckle meat. Make sure there is no small shell in it. And I'm going to cut them in 2 or 3 pieces each. Make sure you don't have any small piece of shell. You don't want to be all of a sudden having to crunchy part in your risotto cake. So the risotto is still ongoing now. It's going to become at some point kind of having a creamy look. And you'll see that at that time you can taste it. Always taste it afterwards anyway. You need to check the seasoning. So now on this one, we have a little bit more liquid and we're going to keep on going. So the next part we're going to do now is a sauce. So our sauce is going to be saffron sauce. And we're also going to start our, actually I'm going to change that here. You want to take that cutting board away? Thank you. So we have our lobster bodies that we just cleaned, and the lobster body is going to be used, okay? So the good thing about cooking is that, like I said before, you do not need to waste any of the product. So, this is flavor. So we have, in the lobster bodies, you got all the flavor that you need to have. So again, we're going to need some more aromatics. So I do have ready already some shallots, thyme, bay leaf, garlic, celery, and then we have also some onions. And so everything is ready here. We do this part. We're going to start first to warm up our oil. So I'm going to slow it down. And when the oil is going to be nice and hot, all this lobster body is going to go in. So it can splash. So again, be careful. And that's where we're going to use a couple liquor. Also, we have some pastis, which is a kind of a licorice liquor that we use in France usually for before dinner drinks, and some brandy. So both of them going to be a big part of this the sauce of the stock. So we're going to start first to put our lobster bodies right here. So the lobster body is basically going to give you color. They're going to give you, flavor also, lots of flavors. And you want to have that, guys, and as soon as you start to put them in your olive oil, you'll see that they start to smell. The flavor is super nice. So on this one, we're going to let it go. And now we're going to go with our sauce. So to do the saffron sauce, very simple. I mean, everything is simple. It just takes time. But so we need a few things. We need some shallots. And I do have some already that I cut prior to the show. So I'm going to use a knob of butter. And then afterwards, I'm going to put the shallots. So the shallots, same stuff, because they will be sweating with no coloration, because you want this sauce to be nice and keep the nice yellow color, since it's going to be also a saffron sauce. So at the beginning, I will take a little bit of my saffron here, not too much. Same stuff, a little pinch. So we're gonna stir it until it's the same as the onions before, become translucent. And pretty much all the sauces you're gonna do, whether you do a meat sauce, a fish sauce, and so forth, depending on the stock you're gonna use, you will be able to do the same principle. So your shallots is gonna be sweated, translucent, some with color if it's a dark sauce, some with no color if it's a lighter sauce. And then afterwards, you're going to use either red wine or white wine or some brandy if you'd like. And then afterwards, you're going to do the stock. So it could be a veal stock, chicken stock, fish stock, lobster stock, you name it. And then when we get at this stage here, I'm going to bring the white wine. The white wine going to go in. And at that time, I'm going to bring it to a boil. So the white wine can start to reduce, and you cook the alcohol, and in the same, so everything gonna evaporate. The lobster stock here, so our lobster are still sweating a bit. It did cool up actually quite a bit the pot. But even if it's not super sweaty, right, you can also keep on going. At the end, we're gonna add at that time the vegetables. So it's onions, carrots. And tomorrow I got to do a beef stock, so all these vegetables are going to be used, whatever we have left. Celery. If you have some fennel, you can put some fennel, a little bit of shallots, some trimming of shallots. Very important, thyme. And don't be shy with the thyme. Bay leaf and the garlic. So the garlic, what you can do for the garlic, you can take it. If you have a pot, easy, simple. I forgot to do that before. Crush them, done. And so again, all this stock, what we want to do is extract the flavor from the lobster bodies. And the smell, I don't know if you can smell from where you are. So
Chef,
this one here,
the lobster bodies went into the olive oil, that's right?
Yes, olive oil. So olive oil pretty hot, and then the lobster bodies goes in, gives them a little bit of time, nice and hot. Then you add your vegetables. Then you're going to cook that together, until the vegetables start to be a little bit translucent and start to cook. And afterwards, we'll add the brandy. We'll add the Pernod. So on this one, you see our risotto is starting to get slowly to the right texture here. A little bit less on this one, last part. So now the risotto is going to be almost done. When the risotto is almost done, I'm going to take all my lobster knuckle meat here, and that's all going to go in. So at this point, pretty much, if you want to have dinner tonight, you can let your risotto rest on the side, and you can finish it afterwards. So I'm going to shut off the burner, because we'll do that afterwards. And then can you get in the fridge? I got the small sheet pan with the risotto. So the sauce, now you got the white wine, the saffron, shallots, everything. The wine has reduced by half already. So it's nice and beautiful yellow color. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take my other lobster stock that I kept from before. And I'm going to add it in. And now full blast on the burner. And the cream for later. I'm going to put now the tomatoes also in the lobster stock. So you can use, if you have some tomatoes, sometimes you have some tomatoes at the bottom of your fridge that are getting a little bit soft. Don't put them in the trash or in the compost, put them in the stock. As long as they're not rotten, you're good. So at this point here, Now what I'll do is I'm going to flambe this part. So I'll take brandy. I'll take the pastis. A little bit of that. And if everything goes well, should be able to light it up. No, not yet. We're missing here. There we go. So, you know, as soon as, and then you're going to burn the alcohol. So what I like about brandy when it's burning and when it's cooking, it's going to bring a nice sweet flavor to your sauce and to your stuff. So you let it still burn. As soon as the flames are gone, then you can take some of the lobster, you cook some of the water you cook the lobster in. Same stuff you reuse. There is already some flavor to it. And then you're going to bring it to level of your shells. Put that one here. So whenever you risotto, if you want to eat your risotto cake tomorrow, what you're going to do, you're going to use either one of the small gratin dish. Maybe I went too fast. A small gratin dish here, and I did what I've done. I lined it up with a parchment paper. I took my risotto whenever it was cooked, lined it up about 1 inch thick, and that's now nice and hard. So you leave it overnight in your fridge, and then you will cut it afterwards, and we'll go when we finish the dish. I'll show you how we're going to finish it. So on this one, risotto is done, vegetables are done, the stock is going. So if you, let's say you do your stock tonight, and you don't have the time, or you don't want to use it tonight because we started to use water for your risotto, take the stock, finish it, put it in a small deli container and freeze it. Next time you do a risotto, you want to do a lobster risotto, you can use this stock, even if you do a sauce, and you can use the stock and then that's going to be your base. So even if tonight you didn't have time to do it, you can do it next time around. So it's never lost. You know, for us, when we do New Year's Eve, I have, you know, when last year, not this year, but last year when we cooked about 50 lobsters, I had 50 lobster bodies. And 2 days later, after I cooked them, I took the bodies, did my stock, finished it and froze it. And then back in March and then in July, I used it in different sauces. So it's a good way to do it. And then it's a way also to save money in summertime. You know, you don't need, and if you don't have time to do a stock, well, you can keep the following time, you know, the following lobster you're going to cook, keep the bones. You can keep the lobster bodies in your freezer and use them as you need. So the sauce is going, this one is ready. So this one, we're going to be done with that. And also, I had some juice of this one. I'm going to add it in. So pretty much we're almost ready. So we're going to do one plate afterwards. So now, as we said, I'm going to get all the vegetable on the side. So whenever the sauce you stock in the white wine, shallots, everything is reduced by half, you're going to take some cream, pour the cream into it, and again, reduce it about by a quarter or so. What you can do afterwards, you have two ways. If the sauce is too liquid, you can always add a little bit of starch, so use cornstarch. If the sauce is, or you can also blend it whenever you think the texture is almost right. Put it in a blender with everything, the shallots and everything, and then you're gonna pass it through. We have in kitchen, you know, the super fine sieve, the chinois, but if you have the regular one, that'd be fine too. It's gonna take the bigger piece that did not go, that were not crushed by the blender. But that's also one way you can also stick on it your sauce and not lose any of it. So the vegetable, I'm gonna take a plate here. I'm gonna take the vegetable out of the water. And you see, so the fast cooking, boiling water keeps the green, bright green. Orange keeps all your veg nice color. This one don't need. So now we're gonna cut our risotto cake. So risotto cake, this one don't need. Another cutting board. So here we are. So risotto cake. One way you can cut it, you can either cut it here, but you know, if you have some good knives, you don't want to cut on metal. So best way, flip it, You know, you can always shape it. And for me, to make a nice, consistent piece, so we're going to take these two. We're always going to do one extra just in case. You know, it's always good to have a safety. And, you know, we have a lot of risotto cake. You see the risotto cake does not break, so that's easy to move around. The fridge. All right. So now we have our lobster, we have the veg, we have the risotto cake, and then we have the sauce. So I had, of course, some sauce made. We're on TV, so that's the best part about it. So this sauce, we're going to finish it. Don't worry, we will not throw it away. Going to move this one. So this guy is going, this one is going to be warming up slowly. There we go. And now we're going to start for our risotto cake. So risotto cake, I'm going to put, again, same stuff, some extra virgin olive oil in my sauté pan. I use a steel pan. They're my favorite. They're not sticky. They're great. You know, you can wash them, and as long as they're nice and hot, they'll be just fine. This one keeps on going. And so whenever we're ready for this one, and so the sauce, I'm going to move that here. So now it's going to be the time to put it together. So if you're at home, again, like I said, you always have some help. So I hope. And then you're going to start to get everything ready. So you need to make sure that you have all your ingredients. You can take a little bit of water. That's going to be for your vegetables. With a knob of water, knob of butter again. Pinch of salt. And that would be for the vegetables. So here oil is starting to smoke. So I'm going to lower this one. And then I'm going to put one time this guy here, one risotto cake, second one. That's our safety. We're going to let it go very slow. In the meantime, we're going to take our lobster tail. And the lobster tail, same stuff, olive oil, we start to puncture it. So you don't want to go too long and too strong on the heat, right? One thing is you need to make sure where it doesn't stick. So that's the key. Second, if you overcook the lobster, then all the benefit of what you've done before cooking only 6.5 minutes to keep it nice and tender will be lost. So you want to go slowly, and you want also the heat to come back. So on this one here, I will use a fish pat. So I got my water and the knob of butter here that's going to start to slowly emulsify. Here I'm going to prep a plate, and then we'll do a second one also where we're going to use the lobster and we'll use a risotto that you just made. Whoops, where did I put the lobster here? Where did I put my lobster? Here we are. Here we go. We're going to put a second one. 1, 2. All right, so fish pat. I will go. I will turn. And you want to get kind of a nice golden color on your risotto cake. So that's going to bring a second texture. It's mostly what you're looking at this point is a texture. So you got a nice risotto cake. It's going to be nice and soft in the center, lightly crisp on top. What you can start to do right off the bat is you can take your lobster head, you can take your lobster tail, and that's the base of your plate. When the, well, let's push that aside. Then again, fish pat. And you see it's going to take also a light orange color on the side now, wherever it's fancier, the lobster. You're gonna let it do that slowly. And then you're gonna take your cake. So it's gonna take about 3-4 minutes, but not totally hot yet. You're gonna wait. And then during this time, you can also have your vegetable. Put the vegetable and warm them all up. And the reason why I put a little bit of the butter with the water is that it's going to be emulsifying. And then as it emulsifies, it's going to become it's going to be coating your vegetable, and your vegetable is going to be nice and shiny. We served that dish in the restaurant about 2 weeks ago when I did the tasting. And we had a rush, quote unquote, like it is now, when we have 10 covers and I may have had 2 lobsters to do. And it was a challenge. So it's a lot of steps to do for this lobster. So on this one, I'm going to place first risotto cake in the center. Perfect. Now I'm going to take my lobster tail here, and I'm going to slightly, before I put it on top, I'm going to slightly open it, and then you're going to make it like that, right in the. This one, I will turn it. And then for the vegetable at the end, you're going to come on that part here. And then we do a second presentation if you have your lobster done tonight and everything, the risotto is ready and you want to have dinner because you've been working, so you're hungry. So this one here, and that's a beautiful place. You got a lot of colors. And you're gonna take your sauce, and with the sauce, you're gonna just drizzle. You can also nab the lobster if you'd like. I mean, for me, I'd rather not because it's a good color. So this is the first way of doing the lobster. And what you can also do, and I forgot to do on this one, is take your claws. And then the claws gonna be also hot in the plate. And this one gonna be pretty fast to warm up. So they're pretty thin. Vegetable are still hot, you're gonna keep them here. And then the 2 claws gonna come on the side. So here you got your lobster. Second presentation for tonight's dinner. I do have a bowl here. This lobster is ready. Risotto is ready. Right before the end, I will take a little bit of the cheese. I have a nice little pinch of cheese in it. Mix it in. And if you feel like your risotto is a little bit dry, and if you have a little bit more liquid to put in, put a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit looser, and it's going to be also very nice to, the texture may be more appealing for dinner tonight. So now on this one, it's ready. Can go this way. Same way, you're gonna put your lobster head here. Gonna put your tail here. And then instead of keeping the lobster tail whole, take a knife. I'll take this one here. And then I will slice it. So slightly on the bias. Here we are. Lobster here. Can also put this close on that side. A little bit of veg. On this one, you can put the vegetable right in the center. And you can also add a little bit of sauce. So afterwards, you can garnish it if you'd like with chopped parsley, chive, you name it. But you got two ways of doing the dishes. One that's going to go a little bit faster than the second one, but I think they're both good. You're going to get the same results. So that's pretty much for our cooking demo for tonight. What I will do, I will send also to VPR also a recipe for a Charlotte dessert. So it's going to be a chocolate mousse and poached pear Charlotte. That's also a dessert you can do also at home. It's chocolate mousse, easy to do. Poached pear, easy to do. The little bit of the cake around it, the ladyfinger cake is not. It's also a simple recipe. It's just a matter afterwards about how you're going to taste it, how you're going to plate it up and build it. But in the same time, I will also take pictures so you'll see how we do the step by step. So if you have any question, I think, Carrie, you are ready to go.
Yes, and Chef, thank you so much. That looks unbelievable.
Thank you very much. Are we on time?
Want to say hey to Jennifer, who says it's like a war zone in my kitchen. I imagine it would be similar to mine.
I got more space, so it doesn't look that bad.
Wanted to say, Nikki asked, can you cook and prepare the lobster the day before? If this is Christmas dinner, I doubt I would be able to purchase live on Christmas.
Yes, you can. And I think you should for two reasons. Why? Because you can cook your lobster, you can get your lobster stock ready. Then your lobster stock is ready. That's what you need if you want to do then your risotto. So I think at that time, it's easier for you to purchase your lobster the day before, cook them the day before, do the stock. If you want to do with the lobster cake, the risotto cake, sorry, you can absolutely do that same night. And then the next day, you just have to finish your vegetables. Lobster is clean. It's a way more fluid way of doing your dish then.
And how far in advance can you buy your lobster? Does that have to be you mentioned Matt, we were calling him earlier, the lobster.
Yes.
Spent the night in your car.
So yes, so I bought Matt yesterday, and then it was cool enough. So I had 3 lobsters. So it was cold enough last night that I left them in my car outside, and they were still alive this morning, perfectly fine. And you've seen Matt was very lively too. So I think if you buy them, you can go up to 2 days out. The lobster, if you keep them in the bottom drawer of your fridge or the corners of your fridge or in your garage, if it starts to get into the 10, in the teens in terms of temperature, keep them inside in your fridge. If it's in the 30s, 35, 40, 35 max, I think you'd be fine for a day in your garage.
Could we see those final dishes one more time? They look so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a risotto for tonight's dinner. And here's the one you can do if you start to prep a little bit ahead.
Oh, the colors of the veg, so vibrant. All the colors are really beautiful. With cooking the lobster ahead, do you do it the same way where you just do the 6 minutes chill and then you can warm up and heat in the moment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Same way. So whenever you're gonna do, the day you're gonna cook your lobster, clean them up. The next day when you need to use them, take them out of your fridge maybe an hour out. So they're gonna start to go back to room temp. It's not gonna change anything. It's gonna be easier for you to also at that time to kind of to cook them. They're gonna get warm faster in the center, and that's really what you want to be. Make sure you have everything hot at the right time.
We have a couple questions about the stock. Ruth wanted to know how much water was in. this is not about the stock itself. How much water was in the lobster pot when cooking the lobster itself? So let's start with that.
So,
how much is in the pot?
So, I mean, it's a big volume of water, right? So you can, if you have one lobster, make sure your lobster is totally submerged and some water on top, right? So you need to have at least, on this one, this pot I have is maybe two gallon, and there may have been 1.5 gallons of water, and I boil it, and then whenever it's boiling, then I put the lobster, and from that time I count 6.5 minutes.
Okay. And you did not salt the lobster boiling water. You did salt the vegetable boiling water.
Yes.
Correct.
There is enough lobster, the salt is enough in the lobster. And then you can always re-season afterwards. But usually lobster are pretty well seasoned on their own anyways.
Got it. Margaret asked what amount of brandy and pastis you use.
So brandy and pastis depend on how much you like them. I would say you can do probably 2 ounces for the three lobster that I had, 3 lobster bodies, 2 ounces of pastis, 2 ounces of brandy.
All right.
And then when the stock is finished, you can always add a little bit more at the end if you want to adjust a little bit some of the flavor.
Cool. You have a lot of folks in the comment saying hi and saying that Bistro de Margot is their favorite restaurant. So of course, I want to pass that along. And folks who are watching right now, if you have questions more generally about cooking or being a chef, anything you've always wanted to know, I certainly have plenty of questions, but am much more interested in yours. So wanted to ask, you mentioned knife sharpness and safety, and,
yes.
And how would you recommend home cooks really keep their knives super sharp?
I think, so when I started in the industry, I had good knives, right? I mean, I still have good knives. And I would take them to the shop to be sharpened, to redo kind of the edge, if you will, once a year. And then afterwards is a maintenance with a steel, classic. This one here, you take a steel. And the goal is, knives in kitchen, and it was pretty much like that in France when I started. You would not loan your knives to anybody. Your knives were very personal. And so my knives stayed in my toolbox. I was the only one sharpening them. I was the only one passing them on the steel, because the angle I go with is the angle I go with. And all the time I'm doing the same, right? So you just go and you just pass that. You don't need to go 20 times, 3, 4, 5 times is plenty, but you're going to redo the edge and then they're going to be super sharp again. But once a year, taking them to the shop and being sharpened is a good idea.
Got it. Thank you. Jessica wants to know, is there a technique for cooking lobster that's more humane? I think a lot of us have seen that Julia Child right into the head video, but what's the most, gentle way of dispatching a lobster?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, in any case, the lobster going to end up in your plate, right? So it's going to be dead. But I don't think there is any, the faster the better. So yeah, Julia Child, and I heard the story, if you do a lobster, if you want to cook a lobster, your lobster has to be alive. If your lobster is dead after a day or a day and a half, the flesh is going to start to kind of change and start to, decompose fast. So that's why we always been told, you cook the lobster alive. It's the best way. It's just like oysters, right? You eat an oyster, it's alive, right? Except if you buy them in a jar. So I think there is no two ways about it. Either if you grill them and you cut them in half, yeah, start with the head right away. If you put them in boiling water, make sure your boiling water is fast. You're still gonna see them, twitching a little bit in the water, but not. It's like anything that dies, right? At some point, you got the nerve moving, and that's nothing else.
And John asked about steaming lobster to use less water. Is that a thing you?
Yeah, I mean, if you could steam them, if you have a steamer, in restaurant usually we have steamers, the big one, pressure cooker type thing. They work well. In a steamer at home, I don't know if that would take, it would probably take a little bit longer, I would assume.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that.
All right, Michael is having some trouble getting his saffron sauce to reduce. What are the tips?
Leave it on the burner. leave it on the burner. Bring up a little bit the heat. Let it boil a little bit more, and then you'll see if really it doesn't reduce. If you taste it, if the flavor is right, you can always do a little slurry with cornstarch and water, mix that together and pour a teeny bit at a time, whisk it in it, and then you'll see you're gonna adjust your texture right away.
That sounds good. I had a question about from Margaret, if the shells compost. I'm not sure if that's your area of expertise necessarily, but I believe they do. I think
they do indeed. Yeah, I mean, you know, everything, whatever you're gonna have left on this plate, which are pretty much, you know, if you have a good appetite, everything is gone besides the shell. You know, the shell goes in the compost bin. Yes.
How important is prep? Like you sort of had a lot of different layers of me's. How important is it for having the home cook, you know, getting everything in place before we start?
Well, I think it's even more important for the home cook. But you know, in a restaurant, we have a whole menu, right? Let's say we have 6 main course, we have 7 appetizers, we have 4 desserts. So it's super important for us to have the mise en place done ahead, because otherwise we would never be able to do what we do, cooking everything à la minute. So right at the moment. So it's important, you know, the vegetable, you can get them the day before too. I mean, everything can be done on this dish the day before. And afterwards, all you have to do is assemble. So that's what we do a lot of restaurants. You know, when we're going to cook the meat, but all our vegetables going to be blanched, and if they blanch, they may not be roasted, but they blanch because we always have about 20 minutes for us to kind of put them in the oven, finish them, roast them, get the nice color we want, and we can control it at the same time too. But I think it's super important if you have a good mise en place ready. Same style, you know, one of you guys was saying that a kitchen was a disaster. It's a way not to have a disaster in your kitchen. You get everything ready, you're gonna have a disaster maybe for 2 hours, but the next day when your guests are here, you look like a rock star.
It definitely helps you feel fancier when you can, you know, maintain the cleanliness factor.
I think that's what it's. I think that's what it's all about. It's all about looking fancy, right? I mean, I think.
Kate had a question if you prefer your scallops a little bit more rare.
Oh, yes. Scallop is rare as rare can be. So when we do scallop here, we have a good griddle, if you will. It's a cast iron we put on top of our burners. So we do a good 2 minutes or 3 minutes here on one side. And we use a U10, so these are the big one, never been frozen. We flip them 30 seconds and they go on the plate. So they're going to be lukewarm in the center, sometimes a little bit less than lukewarm. It can sometimes throw people off. But for me, that's the only way, you know, like for any fish for that matter, I'm not saying that every fish should be rare, but the scallop, yes, could be definitely rare. Okay.
Ben has a great question Ben has a shellfish allergy but loves risotto. What's your favorite stock alternative? And I guess I would add on to that, like how swappable are different elements in this dish? Like if I wanted to do similar risotto but with chicken or something like that, I don't know.
So
answer
you're
Ben's
going to
question
use a
definitely
chicken stock.
first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, you can swap anything in that dish, right? You move the lobster out. You're going to do a vegetable stock. You're going to do fish stock. You're going to do not a lobster stock, sorry, but a chicken stock. So, you know, all these things, and chicken stock, I think, going to be particularly good because it's kind of slightly sweet, right? So you're going to get something coming in, there's a little bit sweet, and then you can put some vegetable in it where you want in it. You can do the same with a chicken breast, you know, and then you slice it thin on top. You can fan it also. So you can do exactly the same. Except you just have to remove whatever is named lobster on the dish, you move that out. And same for the sauce. You can do the sauce, curry sauce, and like I said at the beginning, you know, any stock, you know, the base is the same. It's shallots. It's going to be a little bit of butter because the butter is going to emulsify when you're going to finish your sauce. And then the wine, whether red or white, or some brandy, if you do a peppercorn sauce, you may want to flambe that first and then put your white wine. You know, and so everything is feasible on that hand.
Was there one thing you learned as a chef that kind of like changed the game of how you think about cooking?
What did I learn as a chef that changed the game? I learned a lot of things. I learned if you want to make money, you don't come in that job. But you know, I mean, I don't know. I think it's cooking for me is a labor of love, right? So the money is going to come if it has to come. Eventually, it will, I think. But at the beginning, you know, being a cook, you have to be ready to work hard because it's not. At the beginning, you know, it's gratifying for me, you know, now. 30 years later. At the beginning, it was gratifying, but you know, when I started, it was, you know, my kid would say, well, you know, when I started, you look so old and so forth. But yes, it is. You know, when I started kitchen, some of the kitchen where I worked were not easy place to work at. It would never fly now. But you know, you learn resilience because you have to. You know, I work in kitchen. We were 25 of us in the kitchen. We would do maximum 100 covers. So everything had to be the right size, the right thing. And if it was not, guess what? You would be not much, and you would have to hide. So I don't know. I mean, you know, to me being a cook, it's I mean, or a chef. I mean, however you're gonna call it. I mean, you know, it just, you have to have the love. You have to kind of, if you don't like what you're doing, stay out of the kitchen, because it's gonna be painful. If you love, you know, it's not only loving eating and cooking at home. I think it's great, but you know, cooking day in, day out, doing everything every day, the same over and over. And then once in a while, you know, for us, we change the menu quite often, so we keep ourselves entertained anyways. I know so our customers too, but it's super important you need to have stamina. You know, I'm 50 plus, and I'm still working 60 hours a week, to give you an idea. So I mean, you know, I think there is not much thing that I learned the respect of the product. Yeah, absolutely. I learned that, you know, you need to you never put anything in the trash besides the peelings. You know, I think it's there is a lot of small trick, but I think it's mostly, you know, if you respect the product and if you treat the product well, you know, then you're going to be able to do good food.
We have two more very quick questions, and then I think we might wrap it up and let you have an evening, Chef. Nina wants to know, where did the Alpha Tolman go?
Alpha Tolman, I put some at the end in the risotto.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things were moving quick at the end. And Jackie wants to know, please say a bit more about vegetables and sauce. Jackie, I might need a little more about your question, but maybe just describe the sauce and just like how those come together in the dish.
So, I mean, you know, I think the vegetables, since I don't cook them super long, they're still gonna have a light crunch, right? What do we call al dente? I mean, you got two al dente. You got al dente where it's, you know, you feel like you will crudité. You got al dente that the veg is cooked, but you still have a little crunch, and that's what you want to get. So you look at texture, you look at flavor. You know, the leek is gonna bring a little bit of sweet onions flavor. Zucchini gonna be very mild. The carrot is gonna bring also some sweet. The cauliflower is gonna bring a little bit more earthy flavor. And then with the sauce, with the saffron sauce, I think the saffron is I mean, if you never had saffron, I think it's worth trying, because it's very powerful. So you don't want to put too much of it. But it's also, with everything else, you know, with the creaminess in the sauce, a little bit of the creamy texture with the risotto, I think it's going to go great.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Chef. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.